ready?
We love.
Hey, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory is due to
Yahawashi.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who we learn this truth and who we do well. Peace and salutation to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you we say Shalom. Coming to you back with another Saturday evening class, the GMS Dallas Younger Brothers. And today what we're going to be going into is how this truth, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding looks foolish unto the world. Because they haven't been given the spirit to really understand what this truly is. Because really, this is going to be the only way out of the upcoming destruction, out of all the plagues that are about to be sent by Yahawashi and all the people in the world, the 2/3 of our people, these heathens. They're about to find out whatever backup plans they had, doomsday prepping, stocking up on food, ammo, preparing heartily is not going to lead to salvation. And we're about to go into all these different accounts, how ultimately knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, obedience unto Yahawashi delivered our ancient forefathers. So first we're going to go into how David escaped that I think it was Philistine king by using wisdom. Acting dumb, acting like he didn't know anything. But ultimately he escaped that, the king by using wisdom, by lowering himself, by humbling him down. Not telling the king, oh yeah, I'm about to be the king of Israel. No, he humbled himself down and ultimately he escaped that king. And we're about to go into different accounts that shows how our ancient forefathers escaped all those judgments, that they were delivered ultimately because they were obedient to Yahawashi. So we can get that 1 Samuel 21.
Where do you want to start with?
Verse 10.
Okay. This is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 21, and I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, "And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David, the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? And David..."
So pretty much, the king already knew, okay, this is David, the one who was known in the land of Israel, known for being a mighty man. And now the king is like, okay, damn, now why is he acting dumb? Or why is he dumb all of a sudden? But David was using wisdom. Read verse 12.
Verse 12, it says that David laid up these words in his heart and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of God. And he changed his behavior before them and feigned himself mad in their hands and scrabbled on the doors of the gate and let his spittle fall down upon his beard.
So using wisdom to escape the situation that he's in. Because if he was to try to be mighty, try to take matters into his own hands, that it will lead to his demise. But that's why he had to lower himself down and use wisdom and understand, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm gonna act dumb, I'm gonna use wisdom, I'm gonna be Clark Kent and not be Superman in that situation.
If I could say too that the Philistine too, they knew they had said, because when you read verse 11, it says, "And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land?" David wasn't the king yet. Saul was still the king. But even the Philistines realized that, the way David was moving and how he was, maneuvering, that he was really the king behind the thing, It's almost prophetic in a way, just off of his discretion and off of his might, the way that he was able to win wars and whatnot.
Right, and it even goes when we read that verse 12, it says that he was actually sore afraid. So the saying, we know David was a mighty man, like you made mention, he slew tens of thousands, right? And that's all, ultimately made possible through the spirit and power of Yahawashi firstly, but David wasn't, what the brothers say, we're not these hardcore dudes, what is it called? I'm trying to think of the phrase that brothers use. you know, like he's just badass, macho. Yeah, we ain't really badasses, macho, you know. But ultimately, what this led to was, again, him moving wisely and making a smart decision in that move, right? Did you understand? Okay. Back in 1 Samuel 21, I'm sorry, and verse 14, it says, Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see this, the man is mad. Wherefore then have you brought him to me? Have I need of madmen, that ye have brought his fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
Yeah, so the king's pretty much, why are you bringing me to this madman? This lunatic. David was using wisdom, but it was ultimately to escape that king. So the king would be like, okay, he's harmless, he don't need no harm. And that's how our people look at this ministry today. But ultimately not Esau either. He doesn't look at this ministry like the rest of the world does, because the whole world looks at the prophets out on the highways and byways like it's no big deal. But this is about to be, the thing is about to show up on planet Earth that is going to be the top wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is going to lead to salvation, lead to deliverance, while the rest of the worldly wisdom, all the different ideologies that people are involved in is going to fail them.
Can I grab something from chat for you? Just real quick, and you can speak on it if you want. I just asked ChatGPT, can you expound on the foolishness of preaching mentioned in the Bible? Right, it says the phrase "the foolishness of preaching" comes from 1 Corinthians 1, verse 18 through 25, and it is intentionally provocative. Paul is not insulting preaching; he is exposing how the Most High overturns human standards of wisdom, power, and credibility. Right, and we see that all throughout the scriptures. The Lord has a record, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's a status quo, if you will, of constantly making the wisdom of this world look foolish when it's all said and done. Right, it might thrive for a period of time. It might have its moment of infamy. It's 15 minutes of fame, if you will. Right, but it doesn't. Ultimately, what triumphs everything is the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we have, right, through the Holy Spirit. Right now, we're in a state where it looks foolish. These guys out there on the highways and hedges in 30, 40-degree weather, right, in a snowstorm, right? They're looking, people look at us as just these crazy dudes, degenerates, like bums, even amongst the Israelite congregations, the bum camp, so on and so forth. But it's through this message, through the gospel, ultimately something that's so far fetched from this current reality that's going to ultimately manifest itself and be established. Us having faith in that is profound, right? But you got it, bro. Just trying to bring up that point.
We can go into the next account, the walls of Jericho collapsing. Ultimately, the reason why they fell is because the Israelites were obedient to Yahawashi and Yahawashi. They didn't take matter into their own hands. They didn't say, "Oh, we're going to do this instead," and not just march around the city. They trusted in Yahawashi and Yahawashi and did what the Lord commanded them to just blow the trumpet, chant the walls down, and that's what the prophets are doing in these last days as well. But to the world and even these other Israelite camps, it looks foolish because they call it the GMS, the faith-based Israelite camp, right? Claiming that y'all soft, y'all not being carnal, but ultimately we're not supposed to be carnal. We're supposed to let Yahawashi and Yahawashi do the work. He's going to work in due time because Jacob is impatient. He wants to take matters into his own hand and try to take Esau even down carnally. But for the Jays to do that, there's already been accounts that ultimately fell. The Sakari back then during the time of the Roman Empire, they tried to take matters into their own hands, and ultimately it ended up not prevailing.
Right, because that wasn't the message, right? And because I have this pulled up, Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. It goes into there's a time for everything under the sun, right? A time to do this, a time to do that, a time not to do this, a time not to do that, right? So you got to look at the times that you're in, right? Yahawashi said, "I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, be therefore harmless as doves and wise as serpents." You see, So there's a particular way that we have to operate here in Babylon and Greek, right? Eventually, it's going to come a point where we're going to have to take that hard stance. But Romans the 13th chapter, we follow the laws of the land. We follow the ordinances that the Heavenly Father set up, even though we know that these are our enemies, right? But ultimately, the message is not that of taking up arms for yourself. It's waiting upon me. Zephaniah 3:8 goes into that. Wait ye upon the Lord, for his determination is to gather the nations as a prey and to pour upon them his indignation. What you got? Where's that account? That's Joshua, right?
Yeah. This is you want to start at the top of Joshua 6.
What we do?
Joshua 6:1, it says, Now Jericho was straightly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when they hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said unto them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said unto the people, Pass on, and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of Yahawashi. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the reward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you shout, then shall ye shout.
That's kind of like, or that's how the problem started today. We're not gonna take matters into our own hands, try to do our own will. No, ultimately, Yahawashi already gave us the blueprint of what to do. To go out there on the highways and byways and chant Babylon down. To go preach the word, not to go to different countries and preach to Ham and preach all over the world, to build lands and like ISUKs, pepper spray each other in the eyes, and stuff like that. No, Yahawashi he told us to go out there on the highways and byways and blow the trumpet, to keep it simple. And that's the same account in Jericho. Because ultimately, while they were compassing around the city, it made it looked foolish to were they Cushites or Philistines, Canaanites? Yeah, kind of. It looked foolish to them. They're like, man, look at these Israelites marching around, chanting down, blowing the trumpet. What is that going to do to our great wall and city? And that's how majority of these people look at this ministry. They see the prophets out on the highways and byways preaching, and it looks foolish. They're like, oh man, y'all just speaking. And what is that doing to the world? How is that changing the world? Right. But ultimately, this is how this world is changing, because of this truth. The devil is being exposed, being Esau, even so-called white man. Jake is finding out the true heritage, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And now prophecy is at the forefront of everybody. Now you got these radio channels talking about prophecy, talking about World War III and the dollar collapsing, letting you know that this ministry, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is changing the world in these last days.
I got something for you, bro. You can speak on it if you want to. This is Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 9 and 10. It says, Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. Right? And that's the trumpet. You know what I'm saying? The words Yahawashi, that we get through the Holy Spirit. Verse 10, it says, "See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant." You know,
That's what the prophets are doing now, because they've been given the Holy Spirit, the true knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to go out there and prophesy the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, to prophesy the downfall of Esau, Edom, and tell these heathens that they're going to go into slavery. You know, and only the true prophets are going to be doing that, because ultimately they don't care that it looks foolish to the world. You know, we look foolish out there. It may look foolish, you know, we're spectacles of the men, and we're out there on every highway and byway in every major city. You know, people drive by and they're like, man, what is this? You know, they're confused. You know, they don't know what it is. You know, they may either be intrigued by it, or they may just, you know, drive by and chuckle and then keep going on their lives, not knowing that this is what is changing the world. You know, starting with our apostles, elders, bishops on down. You got it,
Yeah, Khan. The scripture talks about how we made a spectacle, you know, amongst the people. You know, so this is something that looks crazy, looks unfamiliar. Other Apostle Kabbalah always says that you have to be through the Spirit. You kind of have to be a little crazy, you know, to be this thing. You do have to be willing to really look crazy to people, man. And we do. Well, you had brought up something that was talking about the walls of Jericho, so I just wanted to grab this. This is and this same thing is happening here right now today, because it's a spiritual thing that's going on. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:8. I'll just straight to the point. It says, "Then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." All right, so that's what's happening right now, as the spirit of his mouth, talking about the prophets who are speaking the words of Yahawashi, and it's shaking this kingdom to the core. That's why all these things are happening, all of these uproars and upheavals that are going to soon start to be pushed out. You know, everything is going really just kind of haywire. There's a lot of confusion. Why? Because the walls of this place through the Spirit are being shaken, they're being destroyed and consumed, because the word of the Lord is being preached, just as, you know, we read here with the law of Jericho.
All right, so you speak on 2 Corinthians 2 and verse 14 through 16 in the NLT. It says, "But thank the Most High, He has made us His captives and continues to lead us along in Hamashiach's triumphal procession. Now He uses us to spread the knowledge of Hamashiach everywhere like a sweet perfume. Our lives are a Hamashiach-like fragrance rising up to the Most High. But this fragrance is perceived differently by those who are being saved and by those who are perishing. To those who are perishing, we are a dreadful smell of death and doom. But to those who are being saved, we are a life-giving perfume. And who is adequate for such a task as this?"
kind of pretty much for majority of our people, this truth, this ministry is cutting them, you know, is condemning them, because that's why the majority of our people they don't want to click on the videos, they don't want to really walk up to the camp, because they're hearing their judgment, you know. But to the elect, they're gonna want to hear this word, they're gonna want to hear this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because they know through the Spirit that this is the only way out. You know, is Yahawashi Yahawashi, is Yahawashi blood. You know, there's no other way out. You know, not through carnality, not through keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments 100%, like the other Israelite camps like to push. No, ultimately the only way out is Yahawashi. You know, is His death, burial, resurrection. You know, the Lord willing, His blood, you know, covers us, but you know, that's the only way out. You know, it's Yahawashi.
Can I read verse 17 for you also? It says, "You see, we are not like the many hucksters who preach for personal profit." And when you look up that word huckster, it says one who sells or advertises something in an aggressive, dishonest, or annoying way. We're just giving you the 100% truth.
All right.
We're just telling you what the scripture said.
free to receive.
Yeah, exactly. It says, "You see," verse 17 again, 2 Corinthians 2:17 in the NLT, "You see, we are not like the many hucksters who preach for personal profit. We preach the word of the Most High with sincerity and with Hamashiach's authority, knowing that the Most High, the Heavenly Father, is watching us."
Yeah, so keeping it simple. You know, preaching the word, not trying to make merchandise out of the Lord's house like the other camps are doing. You know, just going out there and really giving out the word. You know, and ultimately, that's what the true prophets of Yahawashi and Al-Shari will be doing in these last days. It may look foolish to the world, but ultimately this is the true wisdom of the heavens. Not no parliament houses, Christianity and Buddha, Islam. That has no weight on the world. That hasn't changed the world. Esau even really hasn't came down on Christianity and these other ideologies because it's not a threat to this system. The only true threat is this truth because it's exposing who Esau even is exposing who the true Israelites are, the so-called Hebrews, Latinos, and Native Americans. And to Esau, that's a threat because now he's feeling that squeeze. Now he's being under that inquisition of how much of a devil he's been throughout the four corners of the earth.
This is First Esdras, chapter 3, verse 35. It says, "Is not he great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth, and stronger than all things. All the earth calleth upon the truth, and the heaven blesseth it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is no unrighteous thing." Just showing you the power of the truth. Truth is more powerful than any kind of false reality you could bring up and conjure up in your mind, and truth stands at the end of the day, and that's why all these lies, this establishment that we're preaching against is going to fall because it's built off all these lies, all these fallacies, that this is the manifest destiny of the nation of Esau, We know the truth that the Lord's track record is true, and that he's not forgotten the righteous. See?
When we go back into that account of Jericho, chapter 6.
Yeah, Jericho back in Joshua 6 and verse 10 it says, or verse 11, it says, "So the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually, and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, but the reward came after the ark of the Lord, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord Yahawashi and Yahawashi hath given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it, all they that are therein."
Can I add something real quick? Because understanding that this is that second generation coming after those that wandered in the wilderness, that generation which was ultimately killed off because they were murmuring. They were pretty much disobedient, right? So what the Lord has given us here in Joshua is a generation that is obedient, right? And what can happen to that obedience, right? Ultimately going to getting our inheritance, our land, right? Receiving of the things that was promised unto our forefathers, right? And fast forward on all the way to today, there's been a falling away, right? Most of our people, they don't know who they are, right? They can't receive the things. They've been spiritually blocked off, right? They're unreceptive to to these things. Like what was brought out on Thursday when we came together, and did our sit down. But then you have the elect remnant who are going to fall under that obedience and receive the message and ultimately be like, well, the Lord wants this. This is it. This is what we have to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're seeing right here. Because they could have been like, well, why won't the Lord? Imagine if they murmur, right? Why won't the Lord just do it? Why we got to wait 7 days?
right? Why we gotta do all these specifics, the trumpets and the taking the Ark of the Covenant first? Right? Why we gotta do all that? Why don't the Lord just do it for us right now? And that's the same rhetoric you hear from our people today. Right? Why, if there was a God, why would he do these things? Why? You see that rhetoric all the time. But the God you're talking about is allowing a child to get molested. Why are these things happening?
Yeah.
You see, they have a problem with the will of the Heavenly Father. The elect one.
Beautiful point.
Can we continue?
It says, Joshua 6:17, and the city shall be accursed, even it, and all that are therein to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because they did the messengers that we sent. And you, in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed. When ye take of the accursed thing and make the king of Israel accursed, and trouble it, but all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Lord, they shall come into the treasury of Yahawashi. So the people shouted, and when the priest blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she had, as ye swore unto her, and the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel.
Talking about Rahab the harlot. Yeah, you read that in the second chapter. Ultimately a promise was made unto those two spies, right? And Rahab that if pretty much anybody she had within her home, if you will, for lack of better words, within the wall of the tower, they would receive protection upon the coming of our people, upon the voyage, if you will, the conquest that was beginning, right? They would receive a hedge of protection. Anybody outside of that, they would die. So that was ultimately a covenant, if you will, that was made between us and Rahab.
Yeah.
So showing, I'm sorry, I was going to say showing that there's going to be some favor upon heathen, right? There's going to be particular heathen that are just like they're on point, so they won't receive a particular mercy, but there is still what's written in Revelation, that 1,000-year period, where they're going to have to get recompense for the tribulation that causes as a nation. But you don't have favor on us either.
Yeah, that's like the way it is now.
Exactly.
I was going to pull the precept, going to the statement that you made previous. Wanted to how the Most High is going to gather up that small sanctuary. It's in Uncle Sean, if I may. But I'm going to have brother read it for you.
Comment. This is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 18 and 19. It says, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom reproach of it was a burden.
Because you get this brother spoke about how that generation before, didn't adhere and had to fall away. All right, so the Most High is going to gather up, pretty much the elect. I'll read that again.
Zephaniah 3 and 18, it says, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden.
So Most High setting the vision. Read
Zephaniah 3:19, it says, "Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out." You know, and if I may, when you get that word halted, it basically goes into like somebody who's like maimed or like injured. You know what I mean? Because that's what we represent. You know, like during the Yahawashi ministry, he was on the line, the sick, casting out devils. Spiritually, that represents all of us. That we're all, and we still are shit.
Because the Most High, he's not coming to those
Right.
that are in the know. He's coming to those that are downtrodden, right? And he's going to go back to the left.
And then driven out shows that it's going to be Israelite foreigners receiving that grace and mercy. It says, "And I will give them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame."
So how about Yahawashi is going to give us fame, you know, because after Yahawashi gets his glory, he's going to give glory unto the elect, you know, and the ones that are out here signing crime probably abomination that's done in the midst of them. You know, but like,
Oh, you good, bro. You point. I got a quick one. You can speak on it. 1 Samuel 15:22 in the NLT says, "But Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice?" Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat rams.
So keeping it simple, you know, doing what Yahawashi told us to go out there and do, to go out there on the highways and byways and preach the word, to help seal the elect, you know, to not teach what these other camps are doing, you know, talking about salvation for everybody. No, we're out there for the elect, the 144,000, the 1/3, the large multitude, and that's it. But we still got to go out there and get the blood out of our hands, you know, tell wicked Jake their judgment, tell the heathens their judgment. You know, and only the true prophets of Yahawashi are going to be doing that, because these other camps, they're not obedient unto Yahawashi. You know, they're preaching out of their own heart. Filthy lucre's sake. You know, they're doing unity camps. You know, teaching the MOTB is sin and all manners of madness. And Yahawashi not dealing with that. But ultimately, they're doing that because they don't want to wait on the Lord. You know, they want that fame now. They want that notoriety. But Yahawashi hasn't even received this fame and glory on planet Earth. You know, so what makes these 2/3 Jakes think that they deserve fame and glory right now? You know, no, ultimately Yahawashi has to receive his glory first upon planet Earth. And in due time, he's going to exalt his elect. And he's going to place that crown on their head, but it's all in due time.
If I may add to that, because it speaks to a lot of these camps out here too that are, you know, pushing, you know, things that are contrary to what Yahawashi has spoken. And that precept that he just brought out, you know, I think it goes back in with Saul, you know, dealing with the Edomites, and you know, the Lord gave him specifics on what to do.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't follow that. You know, so ultimately, when you know, he's told to kill the land and, you know, cut everyone in the land and show cattle and all that. What did Saul do? He went about his own way. You know what I mean? Ultimately, but that's what Jake is out here doing, specifically with a lot of these camps. They're straying away and they're going about trying to find their own vain glory. They're looking for that notoriety. You know, people surrounded by, you know, man pleasers and trying to get that glory first. You know, so that's why these things are a constant reminder just to the spirit. I just want to add that.
That's, if I can, I'm sorry. That's a heavy point that you make, because that particular account with Amalek, that shows you that obedience is like preventative. Like it prevents a lot of things from happening in the first place.
Man,
You know, like, you know, hypothetically, if he would have been obedient to that, Amalek would have been eliminated. Which means that
it's heavy.
so much prophecy, but you know, there are things that happen.
Right.
It all has consistency. You know what I'm saying? But it goes into what you're saying, because like Jake thinks that you just gonna be able to get this truth whenever, like for however. They don't understand that you're gonna have to obey, or your opportunity. There is no opportunity to sacrifice after this word goes out. He was already sacrificed himself. So this word is going out. You either get with it. The sacrifice already been made.
Right.
You know, so you know.
I got something if you want. Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 7, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil."
Yeah, so doing what Yahawashi commanded us to do, to go out there, to be the sheep, to help still the elect, to walk this walk, to the best of our ability, keeping the law, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability. Putting off that old man, leaving this world behind, because we know that we're about to have to walk away from this world very soon. And the elect are going to be prepared for that. Not trying to lean on their own understanding, not trying to, form a plan. Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that to escape this upcoming doom. No, ultimately the elect are going to trust in Yahawashi and Yahawashi. They're going to trust in His will, regardless of it. They don't know how it's going to play out. They're just going to fully put their trust and faith in Yahawashi and Yahawashi.
Okay, one more quick one. In Proverbs 14:12, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Proverbs 14:12 again, it says, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Yeah, so these other camps, these carnal Israelites claiming that you're going to have to form militias and so on and so forth. Like what happened with the ISUK, General Yahawashi. He was put in a serious trap. They asked him, what would you do, with the Black Panthers if they came up against you? He said, he's going to put them down. And that's a serious trap, because ultimately, if he was to answer in the right way, he would tell him, man, I'm going to wait upon Yahawashi Yahawashi. I'm not going to do nothing out of my own actions, out of my own power, because the elect know that the power doesn't come from them, it comes from Yahawashi Yahawashi, it comes from the heavens.
I got one. Here's an account, that we can relate to today, because this would be very foolish unto the world. And Yahawashi had to give an example to one of his disciples. This is Matthew 8, and I'll start with verse 21, and it reads, and another of his disciples said unto him, Yahawashi, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Yahawashi said unto him, follow me and let the dead bury the dead. And, to any individual that's outside of the truth, that would be like foolish to them. Like, dang, he won't even let me bury my father, but not understanding that they're, in a dead mind state already. So likewise in this truth, that's how a normal J, look at us, when it comes to this truth. Like, why y'all doing these things? It don't make sense. What do you mean you don't want to, come to the Christmas party or, things of the world, So when we operate in wisdom, those things are foolish. And it was just amazing to me that Yahawashi used one of his disciples to bring that understanding out too. Where it was like, oh, it's all about the work.
Yeah, it seems unprofitable.
Right.
Because there's no immediate return upon the investment.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been given the vision, and it's like once we heard the word,
mm-hmm.
and it's settled within our spirits, our souls, it was like it just took a hold of us.
Right.
But
And
this is the only
that's
thing
why
that makes sense in its
mm-hmm.
entirety. It doesn't have a hold.
Beautiful point.
Was you gonna say something already?
Oh, no, that was just, I was just in agreement.
You get that 1 Corinthians chapter 1.
This is 1 Corinthians 4:10. It says, we are fools for Hamashiach's sake, but ye are wise in Hamashiach. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but we are despised.
In the world decided to put out the Yahawashi. And that's how the Lord is dealing with by those who the world hates. Right? Like it says, it's not true that they hate it. And that's what the world hates. They do hate Yahawashi. And the rest of them acknowledge the true prophet, and acknowledge that the Yahawashi is them. Even though they look foolish, it may look foolish to Shalom. It may look foolish to the world, we're out there on the highways and byways preaching the word.
Right.
With the markets on, they say like shower curtains, dresses, and so on and so forth, they have to be cursing and yelling, but if they would really to stay and hear and listen, and it would make sense, it would click, but they don't want to hear that because they don't want to put this world behind. They think that the wisdom of this world is going to continue on forever.
Right.
This current life, current lifestyle. not knowing this God had done away with it. Like the scripture says, that this current world is about to pass away. You know, so what manner of conversation should we be? You know, the elect are going to be in the right conversation, in the right walk, right, moving in the correct spirit. While the rest of our people, the 2/3, the wicked of our people, they're just going to continue despising His word. You know, they're going to try to get it when it's too late. You know, the famine of the word is, but by that time point period, they're going to realize, damn, you know, that was it. That was the only way out. And you know, they let it slip by.
Can I get one for you? This is Ezekiel chapter 33 and verse 31. It says, "And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness." You know, I'll read the next verse. It says, "And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice, and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do it not, or they do them not."
Yeah, and that's Jake. They only want to tune into the videos whenever it's a curse out session, to the black woman, or it's a controversial topic. But when it's about the true breakdown of the scriptures, you know, Yahawashi, you know, history, you know, faith, that they don't tune into that. But let it be a black woman curse out video, they can get like triple or quadruple the views.
Like cutting the white man.
Yeah. Yeah, those outlandish titles. Edomite gets his head cut off, town square. Blood shooting in the streets.
Jugular. Because they see it for filthy lucre's sake. They see it for entertainment. You know, and if you want entertainment, you can go out there and view all these people, you know, UFC fights and all that. That's entertainment. This here, this is only for the elect.
Right.
Right? No one else is going to properly discern. You know,
It's deadly serious.
it's deadly serious.
They don't have a grasp on the severity of the word that's going out. The message is going out, the doctrine, right? And it's going to cost them. I don't know, was it more than that? So I had first grade.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Proverbs 18 and 21, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." Right? So either you have a message that's going along with the world, that go along, get along spirit, that kumbaya, why can't we be friends, face off, right? And then you got the message of the prophets, right? Which Jeremiah 28, right? The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against kingdoms of war and of evil and pestilence. Man, the times we're living in is not the nations coming together in harmony. No, you see, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world, you can see very well that there's friction between the nations. It's just part of the end time signs, right? So the message is ultimately the word that's going out, as Priest Yazarala had brought out there, 2 Thessalonians 2, right? This word is ultimately heralding in the end and the coming of our Lord Yahawashi.
And the majority of our people, they don't see that. They don't see that this is signaling the downfall of Babylon, the grave of the spirit empire. Our people don't look at it that way. They look at it as no big deal. You know, those crazy bugged out guys on the highways and byways. You know, they're out there every Tuesday and Friday. You know, brothers during the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and they look at it as no big deal because they're so used to seeing it. But when the famine of the word is, that's when they're gonna realize, oh shit, you know, where are those guys that been preaching about the Bible, preaching about doom and gloom, you know, and they were talking about this was gonna happen. That's when they just want to take it serious, and it's gonna be too late. You know, they're gonna realize that they messed up. They should have took heed to Yahawashi, even though it looked foolish. You know, they're gonna realize that whatever wisdom of this world they have, philosophy, PhD, so on and so forth they have, it's not gonna deliver them. It's not gonna answer all the questions that they have. Why is this happening? Why is FEMA troops at my door? Right? Why are there tanks in every city? And why is the economy collapsing? They're not going to have the answer to these things, but the elect, they're going to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to keep them stable. because his wisdom is just gonna trump, you know, all this worldly wisdom.
If I may add, you see that happening with the Northern Kingdom right now. It's ICE situation. These floods are kicking in the door on Issachar, you know, in these different nations, and they without. And this just goes to show you ultimately that these people heard the truth. Otherwise, these things wouldn't be happening. So we're in that time, you know. So these things are only going to ramp up. We know what's happening here is just a precursor that's going to spread all throughout Babylon, but people are going to be left without answers, man, in that day, man. And we see it happening right now. The Lord is giving you small examples, just what's going on with ICE in this whole situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This is Proverbs chapter 14 and 3. It says, "In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them." It's like how we were talking about the wall of Jericho situation, you know, and they was commanded to shout and make a certain noise, and it would destroy that city. And that's that noise that we making too, you know.
That's right.
How that those lips, the things that we say, the words that we say, it's gonna preserve us. You know, a lot of these other people, they're speaking foolishness, you know. Like, man, how the Lord done with y'all? How can this be of the Lord? Why would the Lord have, you know, America be established just to destroy it in a way? Like, you know, a lot of people's own words, their own pride is destroying it in this time. Things they think, yeah, things they think. You know,
Hebrews 13 and 15, by him therefore let us offer the sacrifice of praise to the Most High continually. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. God, let's do good and to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices, the Most High is well pleased. Obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls.
See, a lot of people don't think that there's any good to have rule over them, you know. Good spirit, Yahawashi, and you watch other people's souls, but you know they can care less. But it's like you said, communicating it, the praise of our lips, you know, that's a sacrifice that's gonna keep us, you know, that righteous sacrifice, like Abel, you know. It's enabling us to live, you know.
In the NLT, I'll just finish off the verse. Hebrews 13 and 17, obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to the Most High. Give them reason to do this with joy and not with sorrow. That would certainly not be for your benefit.
And that's the problem we have in the nation of Israel with the other camps. You know, most of their leaders fall under the umbrella, you know, of One West, where they had, were taught under the teachers like, Priest Ariel and, all of the leaders before, Apostle Tahar. And now when you look at everything, how it's filtered down, everything's been watered down, you know, everyone is broken off and branched off, like you say, filling their own belly. Now they have diluted the truth, you know, and our people have become even more wicked now because of that, you know, what you just read there about not taking heed to your teachers, your leaders, man, you know, and that's very important in this truth, you know. That's part of being humble, you know.
I got some. This Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest unto me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children." Because people hate knowledge, you know.
Right.
People, they'll literally say ignorance is bliss, you know.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you know, I believe in the Bible, but you know, I ain't trying to really do all that. I'm trying to go to church and shoot at these hoes, you know. On some simple shit.
Right.
Niggas will love they'll love to read the scriptures about, you know, a man can have more than one wife.
Yeah.
But then it comes to, oh, you gotta go out and, you know, change your appearance by growing out your beard and actually not, you know, wanting to do nothing with another man's wife, you know, or changing your conduct, you know, praying, turning toward the east, calling upon Yahawashi outside, you know.
Not even.
No, niggas want to sing the longest prayer at Thanksgiving. You know, with their family, they want that glory.
Right.
So we don't let them have it because you niggas want to be stupid, man.
And then at the end, they're just like, let's watch some football.
Yeah.
That's the main thing to them, you know. Just the world shit. The shit that comes with the
Right.
world.
Yeah.
They're really fixated on that. And whatever little time they might, when they feel like it, that's when the Heavenly Father gets the crumbs. Right?
Yeah.
And how it's supposed to work.
Right. Jake wants Yahawashi to revolve around him. Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other way around, man. And it just don't work like that.
It's too little, too late. Niggas want to worship the Lord when, you know, now they talking about how we gonna get out of America, you know, like how we going what's the escape plan? The parents asked me that the other day. It was like, yo, what's the escape plan if we have to leave America? Say, y'all niggas don't know. Y'all, I know what's going on. Y'all don't know what's going on.
I got a precept.
They will escape through the spirits when the missiles come.
Yeah.
They have to go with the ghosts.
Yeah.
They got to hear that.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 22 in the NLT, and it reads, "It is foolish to the Jews who ask for signs from heaven, and it is foolish to the Greeks who seek human wisdom." Verse 23, "So when we preached Hamashiach was crucified, the Jews were offended, and the Gentiles say it's all nonsense." Verse 24, "But to those called by the Most High to salvation, both Jews and Gentiles, Hamashiach is the power of the Most High to them and the wisdom of the Most High." You know,
That links with Revelation 12, or I want to say 12, and they overcame by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of the testimony, because that scripture mentioned Yahawashi crucified. You know, that's a covering. That is the escape plan. Like the elders live, they went to the brothers, they watched the elders live last night, they talked about a plot armor. You know, like how like a protagonist in the movie, he's got that plot armor, you know what I mean? Because he's important in the script, like he just protected from crazy situations, he just can't die. That's that escape that it talks about in 2 Peter, the 1st chapter, entrance being ministered unto you. You know, that comes from that covering,
right,
preaching Hamashiach crucified.
right.
So that's the escape, but people don't want to hear that. Really, there's no escape. The only escape is through Yahawashi.
And it gave both examples of what we're talking about, you know, the people of the world, and then even people know they're Israelites that's in the camps, because it said both Jews and Gentiles.
Can you read verse 25 on that?
Come. Verse 25, and it reads, "This foolish plan of the Most High is wiser than the wisdom of human plans, and the Most High's weakness is stronger than the greatest of human strength." Verse 26, and it reads, "Remember, dear brothers and sisters, that few of you were wise in the world's eyes and powerful and wealthy when the Most High called you."
So, you know, going back into that worldly wisdom, you know, PhDs,
Mm-hmm.
what they call it, cemetery schools.
Mm-hmm.
Seminary, yeah. Seminary school.
They really feel like a dead mental frame.
Yeah,
Apostle the Hawk on that.
yeah, and people look at that like it's wise, you know. But whenever they see the men of the world on the highways and byways, they look at it like, man, what do y'all know?
What's your level?
Where's your degree?
Yes.
Where your building at?
Yeah.
I got a church. This is the church. We always tell them the same.
And all that to say because whenever I was in the world, you know, just me speak about myself, I didn't go to a college. You know, I didn't go to any higher level of education. You know, so to the world, I'm a dumbass. But being in these scriptures, you know, Yahawashi is blessing me with wisdom and understanding, which is better than any understanding of this world. What did Theodore Roosevelt say?
Yeah,
He say,
understanding of the Bible is better than any college education.
yeah, so we have the best education on the planet Earth. All right, and we're trying to give it to, you know, people openly and freely, you know, but yet they're trying to say you're dumb. You don't have anything tangible that we can see.
Right, that's why, you know, when you go into like the word degree, a lot of these women have these degrees,
Yeah.
PhDs. You go into that word degree, it literally means D is down and degree means grade.
Yeah, downgrade.
It's really a downgrade, which is interesting because the 26th president of the U.S., Theodore Roosevelt, he said that because why? He knew that ultimately these women basically traded in their salvation, all right, for a downgrade. They pretty much downgraded themselves.
Yep.
All right, and a lot of these men too, you know, they're holding on to the wisdom of the world.
And it's a part. It's like a piece, like a degree or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 degree, like it's literally like somebody gave you a piece of puzzle out of the box. Now you think you the shit, you the shit. You got a piece of puzzle.
Yeah.
Where are the other 99 pieces?
I got the precept to back you up on what you said about yourself.
And if I may say this, you talked about the 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt. You know, well, the 47th president said that your degree don't matter. So,
Do y'all know something we don't?
like real shit.
Well, here's the precept backing you up. This is John chapter 12, verse 32, and it reads, and this is Yahawashi speaking, and I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. And that's the foolishness of this world when it comes to this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, exactly what you was explaining. You know, you have a lot of people, quote unquote, according to this world, you know, have master's and doctorate degrees and, you know, speak eloquently. I'm a part parenthetically right here and speak to you people. You know, they go into all of that, but then, you know, they don't know they butt from a hole in the ground when they come to, getting up out of here, man. You know, getting on the chariot. So, you know, just backing you up. You know, when you're, the hope of chosen and the elect, all you have to do is what Yahawashi told you to do: lift him up. You know.
I got some, buddy. You can break it down. This is 2 Chronicles 15. I'm going to get 15 and 16. It says, I'll get straight to the point. It says, the Lord. What was that again? 2 Chronicles, I'm Slakia. 2 Chronicles 36, verse 15.
Oh,
wow. And it says, the Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on the people at his temple. This is in the NLT, by the way, Slakia. But the people,
If I can say too, because a lot of times even the prophets were sent doing things foolishly, you know, like Jeremiah. Being butt naked, prophesying, and Hosea, right, his wife, his children, and other various prophets.
Who's that? The eat dumb?
Yeah.
Even John the Baptist, right?
Yeah.
His ministry, like they were looking at that, like, man,
Yeah.
Eat locusts and wild honey.
But they didn't realize that was going to be a representation of them. Like the sackcloth that we wear is a sackcloth that these people, they're putting on right now.
Yeah.
The whole world is about to start mourning. You know, we see it. You know, we see niggas crashing out. The TikToks.
Yep.
Because time is up. Yeah.
They understanding their money not saving them.
Yeah.
How I make 150,000 and I can't buy groceries. And, you know, they just mad, man. You know.
This is back at 2 Chronicles 36, verse 15 and 16. And the Lord their God, and the Lord the God of their ancestors, all right, again, let them be known that this is a family affair.
Yep.
Repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. 16. But the people mocked these messengers of Yahawashi and despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained, and nothing could be done. Right, so, and that's just pretty much what we're going through now. Now, this account is when, of course, Jacob was going off and the Lord sent Babylon in there onto it. And are we not in these times right now? Okay, we're literally in the daughter of Babylon right now. The Lord is great, as Ezekiel talks about, a sword is sharpened. So the Lord is great that loose this devil, Just to add on to that. The Lord is set up, why? Because ultimately he has compassion, all right, on Israel as a whole, but he knows ultimately, there's only that remnant that was chosen, all right, to come back and hear this message. All right, and that's really, that's plain on tables.
Fine, we can finish off on these last two precepts. If you go back to that 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and 27 and then 2.
Okay, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27, and it reads, "Instead, the Most High chose things the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And he chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful.
Yeah, so, you know, we don't have an army of a militia. You know, we're not being carnal out here. Yet Esau even wants to come down upon us because he sees this is the greatest threat to his system. When prophets chanting down Babylon great. But to the world, it looks like, man, those guys are bugged out. But to the elites, you know, we're the most dangerous thing unto their system.
And that's why they pay so much money to keep this information from us. All right, but it's not about what they can do. It's what Yahawashi did. All right, he's the one that gave everything to us, so we can be elevated to that level. Okay, and I got to preach that this book in Solomon chapter 10, verse 21. It says, "For wisdom openeth the mouth of the dumb, and made the tongue that cannot, the tongue of them that cannot speak eloquent." All right, because Yahawashi is the reason. Yeah, even those like some of us have a speech impediment, you know, like Moses. Moses had a speech impediment. He couldn't speak, you know, openly to a large crowd. You know, that's why Aaron had to be his speaker. You know, right? He had to be his spokesman. You know, but it's the same way. Wisdom has opened up the mind of the elect. You know, so they can speak eloquent all these words, all these lessons that are going across the whole earth. You know, it's being speaking eloquently. You know, so everybody can properly discern. You know, what you got.
It's Acts 4:13. It says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahawashi."
Wow.
So, yeah, this is just like going off your point. This is just evidence that we've been sucking with Yahawashi. You know, the eloquence of our speech, the ability to break down parables. You know.
Read that verse 28.
Okay. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 28 in the NLT, and it reads, "The Most High chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to bring to nothing what the world considers important."
Yeah, so the majority of the world, they don't consider this ministry, this truth, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's the most precious thing upon the planet Earth. They look at it as nothing, like of no importance, not knowing that this is the lottery in a sense. You know, this is literally the only way out of the upcoming destruction is through Yahawashi Yahawashi. You know, and all the wisdom of the world is being brought down. It is being torn down. You know, whatever philosophy that people had that they believe in, it is crumbling. You know, it's not keeping them stable no more. You know, whatever they thought was going to keep them stable in these times, now they're like, damn, you know, this isn't it. You know, the only thing that's going to keep the elect stable in these last days is going to be this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, like it says in Isaiah 33 and verse 6. That's all I had. Y'all brothers.
I want to touch on something that Malak spoke about. It's kind of like how when you said if something happened, you know, Babylon the Great, where will you go? You know, how we get out of this? And if you ask anyone on earth, you know, outside of the elect, they got all these brilliant, bright ideas, except for what the scriptures tell you. You know, hey, we're gonna get a boat, we're gonna move over here, you know, and each and every one of them will tell you that, oh, we it's the rapture, but they let you know they don't even believe in it because they trying to escape. If you knew that's what it was, you have confidence and saying it don't matter.
Right, bro, rapture means to be like to be seized.
Yeah.
Not to be taken. You know what I mean? Not to willingly just go. Right.
Yeah, so that lets you know they don't even trust in what they believe in because it wouldn't matter. You know, you're gonna be delivered. So it amazes me, you know, when it comes, especially our people. You know, I always like to just focus on Jake because I ain't worried about the heathen. But when it comes to Jake, that's Jake mindset.
That's it's Ecclesiastes 9:16. It says, then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard.
What was that?
Ecclesiastes 9:16.
Man, I hear that.
So yeah, that's our wisdom is despised though. We poor in physical, but we rich in spirit. So, but people don't listen. And that's okay. Because it's all gonna be heard. It's all gonna be heard through when these actions, when these players really start to hit, as they did.
I mean, I don't know, just real quick, I don't know if I'm pretty sure your brothers have seen it. There was this I think it's TikTok video where there's this girl, and I added other people, but there was this girl, I think she was a Moabite, it looked like. And she was talking about why, she just had a question, and I know it was the Spirit of the Lord. She was like, why are black people hated so much? She was like, I just feel like there's something different about these people, and like if they're so dumb and so ignorant, then why don't they get loans? If they're so this and they're literally not a threat, then why they put so much energy in holding these people back? And she was just like, I just feel like, and she said it, she was like, I just feel like, what if I feel like these people know, certain powers that be know that these people they have some kind of superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the video, right?
I saw
Even them Israelites, that Trump is bombing over there, and because they uprising against the nation, the quote unquote nation of Israel, the small hats.
Right.
A lot of them know who the people are. You read a video that was out a few years ago. There's the lady in the barren land. Black people, please come back to the land. That's why. Trump trying to keep that on the hush.
Yep.
They begging for us to come back into the land. Yep. The scriptures say the whole earth groaning, and waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. Like that includes the people too.
Right.
And the people know. It's just the people in America don't.
Right.
The Israelites in America is dumb about where they come from.
And the leaders that's over there, because the heathen, they still benefit off of our downfall.
Yep.
So they would love us to be back, but at the same time, it's like we know what that means.
They would love us to be back to continue to have power over us. So where we
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Y'all, we still do this and that for y'all.
But we wouldn't treat y'all like the Edomites.
Yeah.
Right. I got a precept, but just going into how even though all this wickedness is going around the four corners of the earth, and them telling us that we are no people, and going back to the scriptures, how we have power through Yahawashi. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 12, verse 9. It says, therefore we also, albeit we need none of these things, these distractions, money, all the bullshit that's being, perpetrated upon the earth. It says, therefore also, albeit we need none of these things, that we have the holy book of the scriptures in our hands to comfort us. All right, because Yahawashi gives us comfort. All right, especially in these times that we're in, we see, us, Lord's will, that we are the watchmen. We see all the holy hell going on across the whole corner, all four corners of the earth. We see what they're doing to the food. We see what they're doing to the water. All right, we see that without Yahawashi, we can't be saved. All right, so we have the holy books of the scriptures to comfort us, knowing that salvation is near. All right, but it's lucky.
Had anything else? That was pretty much the point. We pray that this will edify and lesson to the elect. We want to give all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash.
double honors to the apostles and elders who bring no stone, who we learn this truth and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you we say shalom.
Shalom.
Beautiful lesson, brother.
Yeah.